Here's something your financial advisor probably never said to you, and it's going to change the way you think about every dollar in your portfolio. Most retirees are terrified of investing too aggressively. They stay up at night worrying about market crashes, they pile into bonds, they keep too much cash, they play it safe. But there's a quieter, less talked about danger on the other side of that. And according to a 2024 study published in the CFP Board's Financial Planning Review, this danger affects the majority of retirees. The danger is this: once your essential monthly bills, your mortgage or rent, groceries, utilities, healthcare, are fully covered by guaranteed income like Social Security or a pension, your portfolio is no longer doing the same job it used to. And if you're still managing it like it is, you may be slowly losing money, not in a crash, but silently, month after month, to something called inflation drag. Today, I want to show you exactly what I mean. We're going to cover a concept called the 70% income floor. I'll walk you through 6 specific signs that you're investing too conservatively for where you actually are, and I'll show you what to do about it. Stay with me on this because the second half of this video contains the most important piece. Let me start by explaining something that most retirement content completely ignores. When you were working, your portfolio had one main job: survive market volatility without forcing you to sell at the wrong time. You needed that safety margin because your paycheck stopped the moment you retired. But something changes, a big something, once you have guaranteed income covering your essential expenses. Here's the number that matters most in this video. When your guaranteed income covers 70% or more of your essential monthly expenses, financial researchers call that a fully funded income floor. It means your non-negotiable expenses are handled for life, regardless of what the stock market does next Tuesday. And once you hit that floor, the game changes. The problem is, most retirees don't realize it. So, what is the 70% income floor? And do you have one? Let's get specific, because this matters. Your income floor is the total amount of guaranteed, recurring monthly income you receive: Social Security, a pension if you have one, and any annuity payments. Your essential expenses are things you cannot skip: housing, food, utilities, basic transportation, and healthcare premiums. Here's the test. Add up your monthly guaranteed income. Then add up your essential monthly expenses. If your guaranteed income covers 70% or more of those essentials, you have a functioning income floor. Let me put some real numbers to this. Imagine a retired couple. She receives $2,400 per month in Social Security. He receives $1,800. Combined, that's $4,200 per month in guaranteed income. Their essential monthly expenses, mortgage, groceries, utilities, and Medicare premiums, come to about $4,800. That's a coverage ratio of 87.5%. They have a well-funded income floor. But here is how most couples in that exact situation are managing their money. They have $340,000 in their IRA sitting in a 60-40 portfolio: 60% bonds and cash-like instruments, 40% stocks. They pull only the interest and dividends. They never touch the principal. They're terrified to. And according to a 2024 Morningstar analysis, retirees who do this will likely leave significant money on the table, not because they're being careful, but because they've misread what kind of risk they're actually carrying. Their essential lifestyle is already protected. Their portfolio doesn't need to be managed like a lifeboat. It needs to be managed like a second act. If you show a like and hit the subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Now, let's talk about the 6 signs that you may have already won the safety game and don't know it yet. Sign number 1. You're holding more than 18 months of cash. Here's a question nobody asks you directly. How much cash is too much? Having 6 to 12 months of living expenses in cash or a high-yield savings account is smart planning. Having 18 months or more when your essential bills are already covered by guaranteed income, that's a different story. A 2024 Vanguard analysis found that 28% of rollover IRA assets and 55% of direct IRA contributions from a sample of retirement account holders sat in cash or cash equivalents for over 12 months, earning almost nothing. And here's what that costs you. If you're holding $80,000 in cash at a time when inflation runs at 3% per year, you're losing roughly $2,400 in purchasing power every single year, silently. No market crash, no drama, just erosion. Now, stay with me here. I'm not saying you should throw your cash into volatile stocks. What I'm saying is this. If your Social Security check covers your essential bills, your cash reserve doesn't need to be that large. You don't need 18 months of runway when the runway is already guaranteed to exist. The right cash cushion, once you have an income floor, closer to 3 to 6 months, enough for a car repair, a medical copay, or a home emergency. The rest should be working harder for you. Sign number 2. Your bond allocation hasn't changed since you retired. Here's something that sounds responsible, but can quietly cost you. The conventional wisdom says, as you age, move more into bonds. The classic rule of thumb was your age in bonds. So at 65, you'd hold 65% bonds. That advice was designed for a world without income floors. It was built for retirees who had no guaranteed income and needed their portfolio to fund every single expense. But if Social Security already handles your bills, bonds play a different role, and holding too many of them has a real cost. According to U.S. Bank's investing data, a bond earning a 5% coupon rate when inflation is running at 3% gives you a real return of only 2%. And if inflation spikes to 5% or higher, which it did as recently as 2022, the real return on that bond goes negative. You're losing purchasing power while thinking you're being safe. Here's the number that might surprise you. A Morningstar 2024 retirement income study found that the safe withdrawal rate for a 60% bond, 40% stock portfolio over 30 years is around 3.3%. But a retiree with a fully funded income floor doesn't need to protect against that sequence of returns risk the same way. They can afford to tilt more toward equities, and their safe spending rate increases accordingly. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying abandon bonds entirely, but if your bond allocation hasn't been reviewed since you retired and your guaranteed income has increased since then due to Social Security COLAs or other sources, your allocation may be running on autopilot when it should be running on strategy. Now, I want to pause right here because what I've covered so far, the income floor, the cash drag, the bond problem, that's the foundation. But the next 3 signs are where most people reading this actually are. These are the subtle ones, the ones that don't feel like mistakes because they feel like wisdom. Stay with me. Sign number 3. Your portfolio has been growing year over year, and you feel guilty about it. This one's going to sound strange, but bear with me. A 2024 study published in the CFP Board's Financial Planning Review found that nearly 80% of retirees' lifetime spending is funded from guaranteed income sources, not from their portfolio. The portfolio barely gets touched. And the Employee Benefit Research Institute confirmed something that aligns with this. About 1/3 of retirees still have 100% or more of their original retirement savings balance intact by the time they reach their mid-80s. 100% or more in their mid-80s. Now, some of that is intentional, people saving for health care or planning to leave money to children, but a significant portion of it is simply this. Retirees are living below what their money would safely allow them to spend, and they feel vaguely guilty anytime they consider taking more out. That guilt, it's costing them. Here's what Morningstar's behavioral research team found in April 2026. Retirees who have at least the median level of assets are consistently underspending relative to what they could safely withdraw, not by a little, by a meaningful margin. They defer trips. They skip home improvements. They deny themselves things that would genuinely improve their quality of life in their healthiest years. And the window to use those years, ages 62 to 75, the go-go years, as retirement planners call them, doesn't stay open forever. If your portfolio balance is growing year over year, and your income floor is funded, and your essential bills are covered, that growth is not evidence that you're safe. It may be evidence that you're underusing what you've already earned. Sign number 4. You have no separate growth bucket. Let me introduce you to a framework that more and more retirement planners are using. It's called the 3-bucket strategy. Here's how it works. You divide your investable assets into 3 separate buckets based on purpose, not timeline. Bucket 1 is your short-term bucket. This covers 1 to 2 years of the expenses not covered by your income floor. Things like discretionary spending, travel, gifts, home repairs. This bucket lives in cash or a high-yield savings account. It is not invested. Bucket 2 is your medium-term bucket. This covers years 3 through 10 of discretionary spending. It's invested conservatively, bonds, dividend stocks, maybe some balanced funds. It refills Bucket 1 when Bucket 1 runs low. Bucket 3, and this is the one most people skip, is your growth bucket. If your income floor is already handling your essential bills for the rest of your life, this bucket has one purpose: grow without being touched for 10 or more years. This bucket should be invested more aggressively, not recklessly, but in a way that keeps up with and ideally outpaces a 3% annual inflation rate over a 20 to 30-year period. Here's why this matters with real numbers. Imagine $200,000 sitting in a balanced fund earning an average of 5% annually. Over 20 years, that grows to approximately $530,000. Now imagine that same $200,000 in a growth-oriented allocation, earning an average of 7% annually. Over 20 years, it grows to approximately $774,000. That difference, about $244,000, is the cost of managing a growth bucket like a safety fund when your safety is already provided elsewhere. A Transamerica research report on retirement inflation found that at a 3% inflation rate, the cost of a basket of goods roughly doubles over a 20-year retirement. Your growth bucket isn't a luxury. It's the mechanism that keeps your purchasing power alive. Sign number 5. You're withdrawing only interest in dividends and calling it conservative. Here's one of the most common retirement behaviors I see discussed in financial planning research. A retiree has $400,000 in their IRA. They've set it to automatic. They withdraw the dividends and interest every month. They never touch the principal. They feel responsible, safe. But here's what's actually happening. If that $400,000 is generating about 3.5% in dividends and interest annually, that's $14,000 per year, or roughly $1,167 per month. At a 3% inflation rate, that $1,167 needs to grow every year just to buy the same things. But fixed dividend income doesn't automatically grow. You may be watching your purchasing power quietly shrink, one grocery trip at a time. Morningstar's 2024 Safe Withdrawal Rate research found that a retiree who needs their portfolio to be their only income source should keep their starting withdrawal at 3.7% for a 30-year retirement. But a retiree with a fully funded income floor, they can afford to think differently. Their portfolio withdrawals are additive, not essential. The Employee Benefit Institute's research on this is direct. Being too conservative with spending is a real financial risk, not just an inconvenience. Their data shows retirees who spend too little in their early retirement years often cannot make up for it in their later years because spending capacity and desire both naturally decline with age. Withdrawing only dividends and interest when your income floor is funded is not conservative. It may be the financial equivalent of working harder than you need to at a job you've already retired from. Sign number 6. You've never thought about your portfolio as a legacy instrument. This is the last sign, and the one most people haven't considered at all. Once your income floor covers your essential expenses, your portfolio serves one of two purposes, or both. Purpose 1, discretionary lifestyle spending. Trips, experiences, helping the grandkids, upgrading the home you actually live in. Purpose 2, your legacy. What you leave behind for children, grandchildren, or causes you care about. Most retirees treat their entire portfolio as a survival vehicle, when, if they're honest with themselves, the survival part is already handled by Social Security and their pension. Here's what that misidentification costs in real terms. A retiree with $300,000 in a conservative 40-60 stock-to-bond portfolio who passes away at age 82 might leave behind $320,000. The same retiree with a growth-tilted portfolio, because their income floor is funded, might leave behind $490,000, not because they took wild risks, but because they aligned their investment strategy with their actual situation instead of their fear. BlackRock's 2024 research on guaranteed income and portfolio outcomes confirmed this. Retirees with a guaranteed income foundation can consistently support higher spending and produce better long-term portfolio outcomes than those who rely entirely on portfolio withdrawals for every expense. Your money has a job description, and if Social Security is already doing the hard labor, making sure the rent is paid, the fridge is full, the lights stay on, your portfolio's job description is fundamentally different. The question is, are you managing it like it's the old job or the new one? Here's what I want you to actually do after watching this video. Not someday, this week. Step 1. Calculate your income floor coverage ratio. Add up your guaranteed monthly income, Social Security, any pension, any annuity payments. Then add up your essential monthly expenses, housing, food, utilities, healthcare premiums. Divide the first number by the second. If the result is 0.70 or higher, 70% or more covered, you have a funded income floor. Write that number down. Step 2. Look at your current cash balance. If you're holding more than 6 months of living expenses in a savings or money market account, and your essential bills are covered by guaranteed income, identify the excess. That excess may be losing purchasing power right now. Step 3. Ask yourself one honest question. Has my investment allocation changed since I retired? If your income floor has strengthened over the years through Social Security COLAs, which have averaged about 2.6% annually over the past decade, but your portfolio allocation hasn't adjusted to reflect that, that's the gap worth addressing. Step 4. Think about whether you have 3 buckets or just one: short-term spending funds, medium-term reserves, long-term growth. If everything is in one pile with one allocation, that's the first thing worth discussing with a fiduciary financial planner. Step 5. If you have children or grandchildren you want to leave something meaningful to, have you actually told your money that? Leaving a legacy isn't just an intention. It requires an allocation that's built for growth over time, not just protection of today's balance. None of these steps require you to take risk you're not comfortable with. What they require is clarity on what your money is actually for. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Do you currently have your essential expenses covered by Social Security and guaranteed income, or are you still relying on your portfolio for the basics every month? Drop your answer in the comments. Tell me your situation. I read every single comment, and I genuinely try to give more specific answers when I can. Your question might become the next video. If this helped you see your retirement differently, subscribe. The next video shows how having a pension changes everything in retirement. That one is worth watching next. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.